My fish fam, it's Nikachu, Merfolk Master, and we're going to experiment with the new card from Ether Drift. We got the Mind Spring Merfolk out here. It's a new blue one-drop Merfolk. I've been always waiting for a one-drop Merfolk for Modern. Something for Modern, Legacy, maybe Pioneer and Standard. And here it is! And I have to admit, I was a little underwhelmed because it's a one toughness creature. Like, couldn't it at least be a 1-2? Please, Wizards, to have protection from Bowmasters, Renin 6, and a whole bunch of other pingers that are going to come out into the future. But you know what? We know Bowmasters is low in the metagame, so thank God for that. All right, what does this card actually do? It has the ability, blue, X, tap, draw X cards, put a +1/+1 counter on each Merfolk creature you control. It is an exhaust ability. That means you can only play it once. That's it, and then it's over. Unless you blink it or something, then you can use it again. It's almost like Adapt. Now, this ability is not amazing. I'm not in love with this ability. It's pretty clunky. You're never going to want to play this on turn 1, 2, or 3 of the game. More likely turns 4, 5, 6, and 7. Ideally super in the late game, but I don't even know when the late game even happens in Magic anymore. Like, everyone's fighting each other so quickly, the game's basically decided by turn 4 and 5. But still, it's something like a one-drop that is effectively a Lord in the late game. You know what? I'll take it. I'll take it over, say, Richardin Dockhand. I do think that if this card is not too vulnerable in the modern metagame, that it is better than Richardin Dockhand. And that's all I basically have to say about this thing. This is the deck that we're going to play. So it is important to note that the number of blue sources in the deck are what, 14, 16? Yeah, even at 16 blue sources between our Gloomlake Verge, Island, Otawara, and Sink into Stupor, we don't have enough blue sources to reliably play this ability on turn 2, turn 3. It's going to be more of like turn 4 or higher, but really that's realistically when we're going to be playing this ability. I don't think we're going to be playing it earlier than that. Also, something to note is that you don't need to pay for X. X can be 0. You can just be like blue, pump up the entire team. It's as simple as that. It's not useless. It's not useless. But anyway, it's going to be taking our Silvergill Adept slot for this week. All right, I'm going to play with 3. Maybe 4 is better, but, 3 I'm going to be comfortable with. And with that, let's get into our Modern League. So we won the die roll. I have a hand of cards. I'm going to keep it. A lot of Harbinger of the Seas in this hand. Maybe we can get somebody with that Harbinger of the Seas. Start off an island and pass. Which means our Gloomlake Verge is going to be online. We also have a good chunk of counterspells in our hand between Flare of Denial, Force of Negation, so maybe this hand's going to do very well versus... it should do fine versus this type of deck, Amulet. How many Dismembers are in the main? I guess it doesn't matter. I'm going to force this pitch Harbinger of the Seas, because we know we have an extra one, and we'll play Lord of it. Ah, yes, the classic turn 2 Aether Vial. Love it! Not. Okay, we'll play Lord of Atlantis here. And that gives us Flare of Denial. It will put a clock on the battlefield while holding up Flare of Denial. And then if we don't draw a land, we can go with playing with the Aether Vial. We'll let the Expedition map resolve. It's not that necessary. So Growth Chamber gets played. Come on, land. Just turn all this stuff off. Not a land. Attack for 2. I think I'm just going to hold up our Flood Pits Drowner. I think that's just going to apply the fastest clock on the battlefield at the moment. Spelunking. So now your land's coming to play untapped. What is it? You also draw a card. Does so many things. I'll let it resolve. Most important thing is to protect our Harbinger of the Seas when it happens. Our opponent might have like a bit of a turn here. I mean, this is effectively like an Amulet of Vigor. Okay, our opponent does nothing. I will keep applying the clock. Now I can pitch our Flood Pits Drowner to Flare of Denial. Now I have 2 Flare of Denials. Can never have enough Flare Denials, apparently. We sort of... You know what? Like, we're not. This Harbinger of the Seas actually isn't everything because Expedition Map can go get a forest, which can help our opponent cast Primeval Titan anyway. Now we do have two Flare of Denial, so they have to get through both of them. But like, still, like they can cast cards can get cast. Is all I'm saying. Can get mana off of this. We might be facing down a Primeval Titan this very turn. Unless our opponent gets a Cavernous Souls. I don't know what's the composition of their deck at the moment. Okay, Summoner's Pact can definitely resolve. They get Primeval Titan, that's fine. And now if we draw a land, they just lose. Because they won't be able to pay for the Summoner's Pact. Because they only have one green source in play. So we draw a land, it's pretty much GG. It's funny, if I got this Aether Vial out the turn I played the Flood Pits Drowner, we'd be that much closer to Harbinger of the Seas winning the game. Alright, probably we're gonna attack we're gonna attack for 2. Not slow rolling you opponent. I'm just doing this. I'm just playing the game out in the most technically correct way. Attack first, then you play your creature later. And then, okay, they're just going to die to their own pact here. Can you pay green and 2 generic? The answer is no. I actually have not seen my opponent lose to a pact trigger in a very, very long time. At least not like that. Okay, this is Amulet Tide. Let's get in Harbinger. Let's get into Shanda's Tidebinder. Don't know how important Consign to Memory is here. Like, we have a lot of we have a lot of strong hard counters. Also, not super familiar with the decks these days. They have like one Dryad that they like Summoner's Pact. So, but they could also Green Sun Zenith for. So I guess we keep some Dismembers. Spring Seas is completely unnecessary. We'll get rid of that. Floodpits Drowner is nice. Tideshaper is a bit overkill. Mindspring Merfolk, probably not what we want in this matchup. Probably Hexcatcher is just a smidge better, just as a lord. Or is this any good in this matchup? It's a 1-drop for Flare of Denial. And it can be a lord later. Maybe it's better than Hexcatcher. Hexcatcher's a bit clunky. Hexcatcher is fine. I'm not going to say Hexcatcher is bad. Also, they're going to bring in red removal, I think. What does an Amulet deck look like these days? It's been changing back and forth. No, they're like heavy on green these days. Very, very heavy on green. Well, I don't know what to do here. This card looks like you could bring it in. I mean, like, if we didn't have, like, a boatload of other interaction, Sink It to Stupor, like, Consign to Memory is probably something fine to bring in, but I'm just not sure here. Just seems completely unnecessary. Kind of green. Oh, no, do you know what? Okay, I am going to bring in Hexcatcher because of Green Sun Zenith. That's probably a pretty taxing card to play. Okay. I'm good. I'm good. Also, flash spells are nice to have in the deck when you're playing with cards like Sink into Stupor. Not in love with his hands. This is just not a very it's like it's interactive in the wrong way. It curves out terribly. Maybe not terribly, but it's not good. They kept 7 cards. I think I'm just going to mulligan. This is just too weak. Too weak. This hand's way better. This hand's very strong. I think I'll dump. I guess I'll dump the Flood Pits Drowner. Interestingly, I do not have an island for this Gloomlake Verge. Too dangerous. Too dangerous. Okay, we counter. Sacrifice one of my lands. All the big explosive starts start with Amulet of Vigor. All of them. This card's okay. put the springs in play first. Maybe you could go Gloomlake Verge first, with the intention of going, just taking 3 damage. Okay, we see an Explorer. Hopefully we see an Urza Saga. It's not an Urza Saga, but that's okay. So I guess we're going to Tide Shaper. What does this do? Sacrifice it, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets. Sacrifice it, create a token that's a copy of a creature. Okay, so we're just going to Tide Shaper, copy the forest. Sorry, not copy. We're going to turn the forest into an island. The intention of Harbinger of the Seas. Coming to wreak some havoc soon. Although we are 1 land short for this. I did have the option to eat up one of our Master of the Pearl Tridents. Maybe that is the line, because there's technically more threats in my deck than there are lands. But I do need to, like, a Lord is like a clock, the clock, to close the game out before things get desperate. That's interesting. I got a Lord. We might as well just play the Lords. They're like 1 mana off from Primeval Titan next turn, so I don't have to worry about that yet. Otherwise, I'd hold up the Flood Pits Drowner. We might as well just have a clock. Interesting, they could play a Karoo land and save their forest. Ooh, there's the Karoo land. Do they save their forest? They do save the forest. Alright, Primeval Titan online by next turn. We can deal 7 damage now. Sorry, no, I can't deal 7 damage. There's no island in play now. So you play Primeval Titan, you get 2 lands. We Flood Pits. No, I think I'm just going to attack for 4. Hold up Flood Pits in my hand. Then I'll have a clear few turns to do whatever I want. Primeval Titan. Ah, yes, the forests. Protecting yourself from Harbinger of the Seas in the future, I see. Okay, so the thing gets tapped. We tap down for a few turns. Okay, hold on. Can I win here? This is 3-6-10. No, I can't win here. So we're just going to play a Harbinger of the Seas, force our opponent to dismember it, I guess. Hopefully this is... Oh, I missed a point of damage. Because if I turned everything into islands, then the Tide Shaper would have been 1 power larger. So, slightly inaccurate play. Slightly inaccurate. So what can they do? They can use the green. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... sorry. They can play a land. They could Green Sun Zenith another Primeval Titan into play, but then they would just die. They go... Oh, they said, good game. Matchup feels like a hate crime. Good luck on the next one. You too. It is a hate crime, basically, at this point. It's, the tables have turned. The tables have turned back and forth between Merfolk and Amulet Titan many times over the years, but we are super far in front now, thanks to Harbinger of the Seas and Subtlety. Alright, that was round 1. Quick, fast, and easy. Unfortunately, we didn't see the power of the Mindspring Merfolk, but hopefully we do in round 2. Here for round 2, we won the die roll. Oh, interesting. I thought I lost it. This hand's a bit dubious. I'm going to keep it, though. Hopefully I can Spreading Seas my opponent out of the game. Hopefully. Our opponent's called Snapcaster Mage. Hopefully they're just not on a blue deck, because that would make this hand really bad really fast. Like, it's got, like, we have two threats. We have Tideshaper and Mutavault. There's the Spreading Seas combination. We have a counterspell. We can hard cast it. But the hand is on the weaker end for sure. Fortunately, this card cantrips, so hopefully it exchanges for something useful. We'll go Island and pass. This hand would be, I think, A-OK versus an energy deck, in my opinion. Oh boy. Oh boy. That was not the start that I wanted to see. This hand turned garbage instantaneously. What am I even going to do with this Tideshaper? Just play it for nothing? Or do I hold it? Because they can't be a mono blue deck. Can't be a mono blue deck, can you? It's got to be another color in there. Well, even if there is another color in there, I should probably just play Tideshaper anyway. Because I can still nail off one of the colors with Spreading Seas. Is my opponent, like, intending on playing Subtlety here? Anyway, it's a tough spot. It's a tough spot. I'd imagine our opponent's just going to be way more mana efficient than us from here because we've got... I want to hard cast these, and that's probably going to... These 3 mana cards are going to get hard cast into no, like, 1 to 2 mana cards. Opponent starts off with Consider. They reeled nothing into the graveyard. Kept what they wanted on top. Bloodstained Mire gets snapped off. So what are they, Grixis? Makes me even more paranoid about playing this Tideshaper out there. Does not get a swamp. Very brave opponent. Very brave. Unearth the Tamiyo. How much value is Tamiyo? I imagine quite a bit. Let's exile this thing. I've like the problem is if I had pressure in my hand, I just let it resolve because I think we can race. Generally speaking, we can race a Tamiyo pretty well. But I have no pressure, like borderline nothing, and it's just going to be too slow. Like Tamiyo's even going to block my Tideshaper here. So I need to keep it off the battlefield. That is interesting. I do like the look of this Harbinger of the Seas at the moment. Because I suspect our opponent is playing a 3-color deck. At least 2 colors, and we can cut off one at least, well, maybe all the colors here. So if they have Unearth, what is this deck? I'm not completely up to date with how people are constructing their Tamiyo decks. Aha! Got him! So the only way out of this is probably some sort of sink into stupor onto the Harbinger of the Seas. Lord? Not Lord. What we needed was Flare of Denial, actually, because our opponent could be threatening a Snapcaster Mage, which actually has a lot of synergy with Unearth, so we're going to have to play a little bit more careful by just attacking with the Tideshaper, which reduces our clock, slows our clock down by quite a bit, but we can't let our Harbinger die. Oh, that's interesting. So they can play Snapcaster Mage to flash back their Consider, which I'm honestly probably going to force a negate. Like, the less cards that are in their hand, the better. And obviously they're going to be digging for either an answer to Harbinger of the Seas, which could even be in the form of Otawara, Or they just go look for their basic land. Or more creatures, actually. Oh, they didn't even block. Interesting move, interesting move. I might, like, by next turn, I might preemptively Spreading Seas the Scalding Tarn, just so that when Harbinger of the Sea, if Harbinger of the Seas leaves the battlefield, okay, now I don't even know what to hit. I was about to say, if Harbinger of the Seas leaves the battlefield, then at least we're hitting the some of the lands. Maybe we're going to have to hold on to Spreading Seas until our opponent shows us the basic. Could have got the basic, opponent. You could have got the basic. It was there for the taking. Not the card that we wanted to see. I guess we're gonna Spreading Seas the Scalding Tarn anyway, because that's the only thing that can get a basic. Okay, that resolves. We get the Mind Spring Merfolk. There we go. Okay, they didn't want to block our Tideshaper last turn. I wonder if they would block this turn, because it's actually better that we wait. Yeah, I guess we're going to wait on that. Okay, let's play... Well, if Mind Spring gets countered, then I will attack with Tideshaper. Just wondering what's the most optimal way to... Like, if I play Mind Spring and it resolves, then and I attack with Tideshaper, they'll always block with Snapcaster Mage, because Tideshaper is threatening attack for 3 next turn. But so I could attack now. Maybe they don't block with Snapcaster Mage because they didn't last time. Maybe they want to bounce or do something with it. I'm not sure. Okay, so I'm gonna attack now. They didn't want to block last time. If they want to trade here, I'm okay with that exchange. I just think that if this gets countered, because they have 4 mana, that I at least want to get in my 2 damage. If it doesn't get countered, then I maximize damage by getting this 2 in right now. Okay, so there's going to be an exchange. It's fine. And we play Mind Spring Merfolk. And I'll play this land, because if we draw a land, we want to maximize how many cards we draw. And it resolves. Okay. Play our land and pass. Even though that this reveals that we don't have Flare of Denial, but, like, you know, whatever. I don't really care. And what's good is if Harbinger of the Seas is a 3-power creature, then I can attack through 1 Snapcaster Mage. I can't attack through 2 of them, though. Okay, what is this going to be? Oh, you have a Murktide Regent. That's only a 3/3, which holds off my Harbinger of the Seas. Well, that's just weird. That is just weird. We got the Otawara, which I was like, oh, I'm going to slam this and draw a bunch of cards. It's actually probably best to bounce the Murktide and then attack for 3 and then Mind Spring next turn. Okay, so we know they have Murktide. Also very difficult for them to cast it. So we do know that this is a Grixis deck, because they do have the Blade Crypt over there. Grixis confirmed. Okay, let's see if we can actually activate this card. Never activated this. I've never played with this card before. It's going to be a first time. We do draw that land. Alright, we draw a land. Let's activate. Not bad. Not bad at all. Okay, what do we risk here? If there's 2 Snapcaster Mages, or a Flood Pits Drowner and a Snapcaster Mage, that's bad. So let's just pass the turn, and I'll just try to play multiple Lords next turn. Sounds like a good idea. This 3 damage is not going to be the difference between... Well, I mean, I guess I do win the game next turn if I attack for 3 there. But, like... The risk is too high. It's just too damn high, in my opinion. Okay, gonna draw 3 cards. It's fine. They can't play a land for the turn. I've never been so happy to see 3 lords in my hand. Give me a land so I can play all 3 of them. That'd be epic. Would also win the game on the spot. Is this enough? No, I'm gonna be short 1 point of damage. I don't even know what they can do here. Okay, yeah. Okay, we win game 1. We're up against Grixis. It's just Grixis Murktide with Unearth to potentially get... I'm assuming there's no Bowmasters in the stack. It's just Tamiyo. It could have Bowmasters. I'm certain it's just Tamiyo, Snapcaster Mage, and probably some other 2-drop or something. That being said... So because it's 3 colors, probably we should stick to the Harbinger of the Seas plan. If it was 2 colors, I'd ignore it. 3 colors is a lot. They're not going to have all 3 basics in their deck. They're probably sacrificing on red. It's probably the red is probably a very light splash for, I'm guessing, Faithless Looting. Which maybe it's not worth it. Okay, what do we want? Consigned to Memory. I don't know. Stern Scolding, definitely. That's going to be a good card. Tishana's Tidebinder, probably also good in this matchup. 2-for-1s are not that good. Okay, Spreading Seas, not in love with this card. Mindspring Merfolk. Maybe better than Silvergill Adept. That drew 3 cards there. Super, super late in the game. Turn 7. Okay, I gotta make some cuts. Okay, maybe we're not gonna be as heavy on Harbinger of the Seas. Okay, let's just throw away 3 counterspells. I don't need that many. I don't want to 2-for-1 myself too hard in this matchup. Everything else looks okay. Looks fine and dandy. Maybe Hexcatcher is more valuable than I'm giving it credit for. Maybe Consigned to Memory is more valuable than I'm giving it credit for. You know, I could counter a Tamiyo trigger of some sort. So you draw a bunch of cards. Seems hard to play around though. I sort of want to keep Flare because that can counter Murktides. That can counter Snapcaster Mage, which is basically a 2-for-1 in itself. We definitely have to be wary of sweepers. No doubt our opponent's going to be bringing in something like Toxic Deluge, which still works with the rest of their deck, because if you kill off your Snapcaster Mage, who cares? Murktide is usually big enough to get around it, and also Tamiyo is flipped, so you know it's very likely they're going to be playing with sweepers that going to sweep the board. Going to sweep the board. I do think you should be keeping in some of these counter spells. If not Flare of Denial, then Force of Negation. You don't have to go overboard, but you do need some versus decks that are going to be playing with some incredibly punishing sweepers, and which also maybe they also have Pyroclasm in the sideboard. This hand is like our game 1 hand. It's like it's weak. It's weak. It's very weak. Very weaky hand. If I consider this like a 3-drop. How good is this hand? Mutavault's this Mutavault is basically like a threat. It's a creature. But we do depend on drawing quite a bit of gas. We're on the draw. I like the curve. Like the curve is there. 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop. Okay, we're gonna keep. But the hand is on the weak side. It's on the weak range of keeps. The Dismember really pulls it together, though. I think our opponent's their best draws, or yeah, some of their best draws are gonna be like turn 1 Tamiyo, turn 2 Faithless Looting or something like that. We can't have that around here now, can we? Drawing a Flare of Denial is not necessarily bad, but not necessarily good for us either. We do have the mana to we do have the mana to potentially like cast and then how do I put it? Uh-oh. Okay, so they play Psychic Frog. If we dismember, they have to discard 4 cards. That actually might be fine. Because we might threaten to bounce it. So I'm going to dismember it. If they empty their hand to save it, I think that's still going to be a fine exchange because they have to put 4 cards into this, and in 2 turns we can sink into Stupor it back into their hand. So they only actually recover 1 card, so it's like a 3 for 2 or something like that. There's a lot of situations where they're just not even gonna they're just not gonna care. They're going to what's it called? They were like, okay, this risk is too high. We're just going to let this thing die. Risk too high. Let thing die. Did I hold priority or something? Somehow the priority came back to me. See, and they just let it die. They know. It might even say what we have in our hand, maybe. So play the Gloomlake Virgin pass. Then if Psychic Frog gets unearthed, we'll just Flood Pits Drowner it. And then I don't know what to do. Maybe it was better to play Master of the Pearl Trident first. Maybe I should have played the Master of the Pearl Trident here. Because it would be a better position for us to have 3 mana up, and then we can play everything at flash speed. Another Psychic Frog. Because I'm going to play Flood Pits Drowner here, but then I'm going to be vulnerable on the following turns after that. That's not going to be good. Just wondering if our strategy would change if we know they have Psychic Frog in the deck. And I think no. Nothing really changes here. Opponent fetches out an island, and they're gonna think about it. They're gonna consider their options. They left a card on top. Flood Pits resolves. And probably Psychic Frog is too dangerous to stay alive, so we're going to shuffle away our Flood Pits Drowner with this thing. Oh! Oh! Does that change something? Tishana's Tidebinder. They kept a card on top. What are they getting? Well, if Tishana's Tidebinder is technically an answer to Psychic Frog, maybe I should just keep the thing around. Okay, let's change of plans. Attack for 3, and worst case scenario, I can sack this Flood Pits Drowner for Flare of Denial. But by next turn, I can play Mutavault, hold up Tishana's Tidebinder, Flare of Denial, and sink into Stupor, and I think that's a pretty good board, in my opinion. Undercity Sewer might fill the graveyard for a Murktide. It does not. Kept a card on top. They're drawing good cards. They're drawing good cards. Good cards are on the way. Okay, forget that. They can still cast this Murktide if they really want to. Yeah, I forgot. Psychic Frog can feed Murktides. Uh, I, yeah, I think we let this resolve and we can just sink it. Shouldn't be that big of a deal. And a Psychic Frog isn't even going to get out of control because I think we're just ahead on the board here. So I can attack for 5. I mean, they could just empty into the Psychic Frog, and I don't think I would even care all that much. Drawing a 1-drop here would be really nice. Other than Vile. I guess I don't have... Tide Shaper would be good. Another Flare. Nothing else I could do. So what could happen? They could draw a card for the turn, dump all 3 cards, replay Murktide for who knows how big, but then I can counter it at that point. And hopefully still win that race. Could be wrong, though. Oh! Oh! What happened here? Okay, so... Is this worth flaring now? Probably. So I flare, this gets bounced. It's definitely not coming back down no matter what. Psychic Frog punches me for probably 2. Then I attack for I don't know how much next turn, maybe 5, maybe a little bit less. Okay, let's I'll counter this. I'm gonna get in a little bit less damage than I planned to, but that's okay. And hopefully our Mutavault and our Tishana's Tidebinder is just gonna carry us to victory. Oh, I forgot. If Force of Negation hits the graveyard, so between the card that they draw, I didn't calculate that actually. Between the card that they draw and the card that they're going to get from Psychic Frog, they could actually discard both cards, replay Murktide. So I'm going to get hit for 3, or maybe just 2. So they're going to not be so aggressive. Or they're going to consider their options because they don't know what the card is underneath. Another Undercity Sewers. Again on top. We're up against 3 monster draws every single time. I sort of want to draw... Okay, I was like, I want to draw land here because I want to be able to activate this Mutavault and attack. Do I care about Snapcaster Mage here? Probably. Next turn they attack with Psychic Frog. I'm definitely going to play Tishana's Tidebinder. Ugh, Snapcaster Mage here is awkward. Even go Snap. Okay, let's say attack for 5. I attack for 5. They play Snap. I force. It's going to resolve because there's only Murktide and a random card in their hand. They attack back. No, I'm just gonna. They couldn't discard. Yeah, I'm just gonna attack. Attack for 5. If there's Snapcaster Mage, then I will appropriately Flare of Denial. I think the risk is worth it, though. Okay, now we're gonna pass the turn. We are not blocking. The damage happens, but the trigger will not. For as long as we have something to say about it. Waiting for Snapcaster Mage. Okay, so this gets countered. One less card for their plans, if they had any plans. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm surprised they didn't discard a random card just so that they could play Murktide, because now they can't even do that. And I'd figure, like, that's got to be worth something. EE on 2 to blow up my Lord and the Psychic Frog. That seems like a deal. Because even if I Flare of Denial, I gotta lose something. It's a 2-for-1 in my favor. We're still attacking for 5, and we still have the Flare of Denial in hand. Best card now might be, I don't know, Flood Pit's Drowner or something. That's a weird one. I don't even know if I want this card. Okay, we'll attack for 5 first, and then I guess I just play the Harbinger of the Seas. Ugh, this is so weird. Then if I have to, I can throw the Harbinger of the Seas away to Flare of Denial, but then if my opponent protects their Murktide, that's gonna suck. Okay, well, what's the mana like? So it's 3 here, and they have to pay for 4. So the odds that they can protect versus Flare is not very good. At the same time, I don't even want to, like, just throw my Harbinger of the Seas. It's like 2-for-1ing myself for nothing. Do you know what? I'm just going to keep this all in hand. It doesn't even shut them off in any degree. The only thing that could help them is if they play a fetch land. Well, if they play a fetch land, that hurts them a little bit, too. I would rather just play my Flare of Denial. Yeah, I'd rather just hardcast my Flare of Denial in the face of this Murktide. Alright, we won the game. And we win the match. Alright, so that was sort of nice and clean. Their hand was like mediocre, our hand was mediocre, but I think we played well. I liked how we played. We maximized our cards, basically, sort of. All right, that was, and we also saw the power of Mindspring Merfolk. Mindspring Merfolk, great when the dust settles in game 1. All right, that was round 2. Let's move on to round 3. We're here for round 3. We won the die roll. I'm actually going to keep this hand. It has no creatures, which is a little bit risky. But what it does have is I do have a lot of Dismembers. So if this is a deck that doesn't care about Dismember, I'm really screwed. But we also have Spreading Seas, which is a cantrip, which is going to do 2 things. First, it's hopefully going to slow our opponent down by quite a bit, because we can play it on turn 2 while our Aether Vial keeps ticking up. But also, so we are hopefully going to slow them down so we can draw some more cards, and we have the initiative because we are on the play on turn 1. But this is, like, if you don't have any creatures in your hand, it's always a pretty big gamble. Not to mention, like, Force of Negation could be stuck in our hand because we need another land to cast it, and I don't really have anything to pitch away in my hand. Our pulling mulligan down to 5, so it could be a combo deck. My opponent says, sorry if I'm a bit slow. First time playing the deck. No problem. Ooh, Misty Rainforest. Making our spreading seas that much worse, that much faster. But it has not revealed what they are playing. I think it's better that we just pass here. If our opponent has removal, then they'll just shoot our Master of the Pearl Trident for no reason. Also, if our opponent plays a creature on turn 2, then we would have to play these Dismembers on our turn. The Maze. This still could mean anything. Could mean Amulet. Amulet was playing with Head Mage. They still do, as far as I know. It's even more looking like Amulet. They play Urza Saga. Well, you didn't want to play that Urza Saga into my Spreading Seas? I don't know if Amulet plays Soporific Springs, though. Ooh, the Rumble card. The Rumble card. So I usually like forcing this. Ugh, you have Urza Saga in this deck? I don't know what... Or is this just that ramp deck? So what I'm thinking is there's not a lot of room for me to dismember anything. But this is like, it's a lot of card advantage. It's like an impulse. It digs for what they want. Plus they put a token on the battlefield. Their curve is stronger at 4. So I guess we're gonna force that. But like there's a world where I let that thing resolve and I dismember the spawn token because I don't know how many targets these dismembers have in this matchup. What is this? I honestly, well, the problem, actually, hold on. Like, I don't know if the deck I'm thinking of plays with Soporific Springs. This deck might be something completely different than what I think. Okay, Tamiyo makes me super happy. Oh, it's Breach. It's just Breach. Okay, let's burn this thing to the ground. No Tamiyo for you. Not that you needed the blue mana anyway. Okay, now knowing that it's Breach, I wish I had that Force Negation back. Now we do have a Flare, which is not terrible. I mean, you do want counter spells desperately. We'll keep the Vial on 2 for... actually, we should probably take it up to 3. Well, what can I can just play Harbinger of the Seas on 3, which is pretty good. All my 2-drops can be played off of the lands. I think this is Breach. Actually, how badly do I get punished for taking this up to 3? I don't have many 3-drops in the deck. It's just Harbinger of the Seas. Okay, I'll just say no. The odds are not with me here. Also, if I drew... Actually, another thing. If I drew a land, I would actually want to play that land and hold up the Vial for any future lords. Because normally I wouldn't play my Lord like this, but we do have a Flare of Denial in our hands, so we were probably going to sack one of these creatures anyway, and every point of damage is going to matter versus a combo deck like this that can just like go off on one turn. Another Rumble card. That I think we're going to have to let resolve because it's going to be just too important to hold on to the Flare for like a really, really, really important card. Also, what is this deck? Yeah, it's Breach. Confirmed! Card is right there. They don't have red mana yet. Can't even play that card. And they got an Eldrazi. So what did they get? They did get the Breach. And the rest of the cards went into the graveyard. So we got an answer for Breach. No, we're prepared. We're prepared. We have Island Walk, by the way, because of Hedge Maze, so we don't have to worry about this Eldrazi Scion just yet. So all things considered, I think we're in decent shape. If we top deck any creature, we'll have lethal by next turn. If we top deck any Lord, we'll have lethal in 2 turns. Oh! We're going for it! whatever it is. Grinding Station resolves. Grinding Station doesn't matter. What matters is the breach. What does it say? Whenever it enters, you may untap. Sorry, whenever an artifact. Oh yeah, whenever an artifact enters, you may untap Grinding Station, which means I guess you can tap it in response to it being activated. Now, do I want to keep this on too? Now, if I draw Harbinger of the Seas, that would really matter because I need that random creature in play. If there's like no, I don't think there's a single 1-drop that would matter, or maybe it would because maybe these Mox Ambers still need to be tapped for mana in order to go infinite. So maybe we should keep the Dismember up. Okay, I'll just say no. Don't draw Harbinger of the Seas here. That would just be so damn punishing. Okay, we're gonna get in this extra 2 point. Whoops, I should do it after blocks, but not a big deal. Attack for 8 puts our opponent down to 5. I can easily sacrifice one of these creatures with Flare of Denial and still have lethal. I would say we're in a good spot, in my opinion. Mox Opal, okay. Float in the red manas. I guess they're going to sack their Opal. Sure. Mill some cards. There's like a Mishra's Bauble and Mox Amber. How many counter spells do they have in their deck? I don't know if it's important to have them diversified here, but I will do it anyway. Okay, do I win? Do I win? Do I win the prize? Interesting. Haywire Might to gain 2 life off killing off of our Ether Vial. Yeah, okay. Just enough life. So they're gonna go to 1. Still gonna put them in like pretty much death because they can't even draw Underworld Breach. They don't have a red source. Yeah, attack for 6. Yeah, I don't know what they can draw. Just in case I really need Dismember up, I'll just play this Tideshaper for 1. Yeah, I don't know what they can do from here. They can't even play a red creature to get... I don't even know if they have any red creatures in their deck for Mox Amber. Well, they're not resigning yet. That's unnerving. Oh, they said should of course not have sacked the Mox. Yeah, but they might have been still in a bad spot actually, because if you sack the Amber, for example, and keep your Mox Opal, then it's still shut off because you need 3 artifacts in play, and you have to sack your Haywire Might on that very turn. So let's say they even drew like a random artifact this turn to turn the Mox Opal. Like, what would it do? I think like I don't know what else can be done here unless there was some cleverness with Shifting Woodland, but I don't think so. Okay, we won game 1. And this should be a good matchup. It should be a good matchup. Should be. What does Consign do here? Counter target triggered ability or colorless spell. The problem with Consign is that Underworld Breach, like, it's not an ETB. It's not like when Underworld Breach enters the battlefield, a trigger happens. That'd be so much better for us if that were the case. Underworld Breach is like, you can just play your cards from your graveyard, and at end of turn, there's a trigger. Stern Scolding, I don't think matters. Again, I'm not super familiar with what... The thing is, the Underworld Breach decks, they're changing quite a bit. I'm not really up to date with how they operate. No, but it's mostly... Oh, wow, it's like mostly a mono blue deck. Heavily a mono blue deck. Super heavy. Okay, dismembers are still good. Now, that being said, this is a good matchup. Like, this is just straight up a good matchup. There, we have a lot of interaction. We've got a nice clock. It's pretty much a dream. So this is not very good. Harbinger of the Seas is going to be borderline useless, actually. We'll side them all out. Tishana's Tidebinder is great. Hexcatcher is great. I still need one more card to bring in. The counter spells are beautiful. This interaction is beautiful. Maybe we should have some Harbinger of the Seas for Urza Saga specifically. Yeah, maybe I need one more for Urza Saga. I don't know what to take out, though. I don't mind having the 1-drops in here. I think the 1-drops are good. Just have some random clock on the battlefield. Helps your Hexcatcher. Helps your Harbinger of the Seas. Just have to dodge Pyroclasm or something. Yeah, I think we should have 6 cards for Urza Saga. Because Urza Saga can win the game by itself. It can do that, you know? Cool dump. Maybe a Mind Spring. Having 6 1-drops is just a nice sweet spot. Oh no! My opponent asked me a question. I don't think we sideboarded at all. Well, that's terrible. My opponent was asking me, shouldn't you have made my Woodlands into an island, though, to prevent me from going off with a basic or a Mox? And now we haven't sideboarded, period. Okay, so game 2 is going to really suck. We might lose the match from this. It was a good play from my opponent to ask me a question. This hand is not great, not useless. I'm going to keep it. I'm not a fan of the Spreading Seas, but we get to curve out with Mind Spring into like Flood Pit's Drowner or Lord and the Harbinger of the Seas, so I'll keep it. And the Sink of the Stupor, of course, is a land. Opponent mulligans to 5 again, which is good for us, because we're going to need that. Given our hand lacks useful interaction. Grab Steam Fence immediately. Okay, we're gonna face down to Tamiyo. At least for a little while. At least for 1 turn. Flood Pit's Drowner will deal with it for 1 turn. We're gonna deal some damage to ourselves. Okay, Mind Spring, Merfolk! Mind Spring, Merfolk. Biggest problem with Harbinger of the Seas in this matchup is, I mean, you still want it for Urza Saga. I think Urza Saga can just win the game by itself. But, like, you know, between Mox Amber and the Mox Opal, they're going to have their mana. They'll have enough mana sources to, like, actually cast their cards anyway. Like, they'll get the red and the green if they need to. But maybe the fact that our opponent is on the play, 5-card hand, maybe that puts them at enough of a disadvantage that we can completely steal the lead. Oh, they missed a trick, actually. So what are our opponents supposed to do with this Mox Mishra's Bauble is they're actually supposed to crack it on my turn. And the reason for that is that then they're going to draw a card on their turn. On their very next turn, they're going to draw a card. That's good for them because then they're going to draw a card for the turn. They draw a card from a Bauble, and then they can crack a clue to get the 3rd card to flip their Tamiyo. Which made me realize, wow, this Flood Pit's Drowner is not going to really work the way I want it to. Can easily flip this Tamiyo. Relatively easily flip the Tamiyo. Anyway, I'm going to still do my part to make this Tamiyo as unattackable as possible. What a well-oiled machine this deck is. But the good news for Merfolk is this is a good matchup. Should be better going into game 2. A lot better, but, you know, whatever. Was I still missing a card? I think I was still missing a card. Okay, they kept a card on top. I think I'm going to upkeep, tap this Tamiyo down. And then I will play Harbinger of the Seas the following turn to turn off the red from Pyroclasms and crap like that. And force our opponent to find Mox Opal in order to get the red for Underworld Breach. Which they can still dig to, like, somewhat reliably. Mox Opal can be found off of the grinding station. I mean, like, putting into the graveyard, and then with the help of Emery, get it back onto the battlefield. Probably put 0 on the top, 2 on the bottom. So they're pretty desperate. Situation's it's getting dire. It's gonna get even more dire when this Harbinger of the Seas is in play. Oh, but they just drew a card. Oh, if they have one more land, oh, they could crack the clue. Then this thing flips. What's the other side to this thing? They go +2. Yeah, maybe that's how they're going to play their turn. Oh, okay, they don't. Okay, they're going to go Emery instead. Which is also a problem. Aether Vial. I don't really like that card right now. Well, I'm going to play Harbinger of the Seas. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm hoping our opponent has heard of what's it called, Hexcatcher, and is not going to be inclined to block either of these creatures. Okay, there we go. It's it is a bluff. There's no semi-bluff. I have no way to protect these creatures after that. So now they're going to give me credit for Hexcatcher. Let's play this. We're going to pay 3 life. And there's still no way to actually cast this Underworld Breach. We're going to play our Harbinger of the Seas. So even if this Tamiyo flips, hopefully it just can't do that much damage here. We can play Lord, still attack our opponent for 5, ignore this damn thing. Because our opponent can crack the clue, Emery can go get Mishra's Bauble, so they'll get the 3 cards. Or maybe not immediately. Oh, sorry, yeah, Mishra's Bauble will only get the card next turn. But like again, our opponent could have played a little bit. Opponent, if you're watching this, you're supposed to crack your Mishra's Bauble on my turn. That's the key. And then you get an extra card on your turn to easily flip your Tamiyo. And you want to flip it. It's good. It's pretty good in this matchup, in my opinion. You know, taking it up, it's a huge waste of my time attacking that damn thing. I hate it. Yeah, they're going to go get the Bauble. And again, the Bauble, even in this situation, probably should be cracked on my turn. Because the extra card doesn't mean very much in my opponent's hand on my turn. Okay, Mox Amber. It's not that useful here because it doesn't tap for red. Emery number 2. Can never have enough Emerys. We're going to buff the Emery up with our Lord of Atlantis. Our opponent's very close to dead. Very, very close to dead. I'm just wondering. Well, I definitely should play the Lord. I'm also thinking about Spreading Seas. Spreading Seas. Let's Spreading Seas this Steam Vents, just in case something happens to our Harbinger of the Seas. Flare of Denial basically means the game's over. There's no way our opponent's coming back from this. they go to 1, and I don't know what they can do. I should also mention, like, our opponent mulliganed to 5 both games. Sometimes people get the impression, oh, my deck is so good. I am such a good player. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm so great. When they don't critically look at how they won their games, and without a shadow of a doubt, our opponent playing with 2 less cards in both games was an absolute beating. Opponent says good games, but maybe they want to draw their card for the turn to see what they get. So a good matchup just got, like, swung way more in our favor, especially since they I don't remember who won the die roll in the first game. Oh, we did. But in the second game, to be, like, mulligan a 5 on the play really sucks, especially against a deck with counter magic. And their hand is so bad. 3 Emrys. So it was like this was like definitely a spot where when it rains, it pours for the opponent. Opponent says, like, no opals. Great sadness. Okay, good games. You need more artifacts. Well, you would get more artifacts anyway. Okay, we won the match, thanks to our opponent's misfortune. Anyway, that was round 3. Let's move on to round 4. It's round 4. We lost the die roll. We have a 1-lander. I'm just going to mulligan. Opponent also mulligan, so it's not so punishing for us. It says many lands, but we have nothing to do with them. You know what? As 2 spreading seasons, I'm going to gamble. Let's gamblor it up. We're going to keep this. I guess I'll dump the island. The Outer War. I guess we'll dump the island. Hopefully this... Well, actually, maybe I should dump the Cavern of Souls. If the Cavern of Souls is good, then the Spreading Seas are really bad. Really bad. So let's keep the lands that have the maximum synergy. So, like, we might need the double blue anyway for our Sink into Stupor. This hand's terrible, though, but I don't want to go to 5. No! We have a Tide Shaper. Do I keep that? I think I'm going to keep it. Hopefully this is not actually a blue deck. It's a mono black deck. They just need Pluto Delta. Maybe I'm going to think about this again. Do I want to play this Tide Shaper? It doesn't get hit by much, and having a random creature in play is good. Even on, especially on turn 1. Okay, we're experiencing some lag here. Yeah, I think I take it back. If I'm a lot... Oh, but what if this really isn't a blue deck? It's a tough decision. It's a tough decision. Also, the Tide Shaper could be Force of Negation food, in theory. Okay, I'm going to keep it. Okay, we're just going to stick to the Mana Screw plan if we're allowed to employ it. Okay, what is this deck? Reveal yourself. What are you doing here? Aha! You're a white deck of some sort. Blue-white control in this economy? You're crazy. You're crazy! Which in that case, now I wish I had the Tide Shaper in play. But maybe not. We're just going to go Spreading Seas into Spreading Seas into Tide Shaper and see what happens. Thought Scour. Am I supposed to let this resolve? Force of Negation. Oh, Oculus. Interesting. So at least we have the Sink into Stupor for the Oculus. Unearth the Oculus. We don't have time for that. We don't have time for that, chat. Okay, Force, Pitch, Sink. Because you know what our plan is, right? We got to stick to the plan, chat. Stick to the plan. And the plan is turn our opponent into a mono blue deck. We know they like blue, but we're going to make sure that they love blue that much more. They're going to really appreciate blue after they're done playing against us. Drawing this land is actually quite good. I mean, if we curve out into like Spreading Seas, into like Tideshaper, Master of the Pearl Trident, that'd be perfect. Because if we disable our opponent's mana sources for like basically a turn, I think that's enough to carry out, run away with the game. Murktide, how big is this? 5/6. Well, that puts a little bit pressure on us to like do something. So we'll start with. I guess we'll start with Tideshaper. There's a few ways I could do this. I could go Tideshaper kicked. Alternatively, I could also go just Tideshaper unkicked and play Spreading Seas. I could also go Tideshaper and Master the Pearl Trident. It's a 4-turn clock on their side. Yeah, I'll just go Tideshaper kicked, and then we'll keep our options open. What do you need so many white sources for? What's going on here? What is this deck? Well, Oculus can't get out so quickly now. Isn't Oculus like a non-bow with Murktide? I think we race our opponent. We get hit for 5. We attack back for 2. Okay, screw the mana screw plan. Unless... Okay, so I play a Lord. If I play a Lord, attack for 6. What do you need so many white sources for? What is going on here? What is this deck? Just briefly looking at the top decks right now. Oh, there is an Esper Murktide deck. The white is for pest control. Destroy all non-land permanents with mana value 1 or less. But why so many... There's only one Hollow Fountain in the list that I'm looking at. What the hell? This can't be the same thing. This deck is heavier on white for some reason. Oh, sorry, this is a Meticulous Archive, so maybe there are some lists with 2 Hollow Fountains in it. Okay, I attack for 6, put you down to 9, and then I play Lord and win. That sounds cool. What's in hand? We don't know what's in hand. Could be anything. What went to exile? We have Abhorrent. We have a Force of Negation. Unearthed. Oh, they probably have Flare of Denial out. Okay, let's start with... we'll play a Lord. Let's play a Lord first. If they counter it, then I'll activate Mutable and just attack for 4, so we can guarantee some damage. That's fine. Next turn, we'll play Master of the Pearl Trident. So we're going to get hit for 5. Hopefully they can't add to the board after that. Damn, that Cavernous Souls I put on the bottom of my deck. How foolish I am. Ooh, Mindspring Merfolk. Gotta play the Lord. Resolves. We're just gonna go for it. Attack for 6, and hopefully that's gonna be lethal next turn. Pass to you, opponent. I guess they could have Force Negations in hand. Uh-oh. Uh-oh! Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. No! Okay, so now... probably we have to play the Spreading Seas. Let's see if we can draw, like, Sink into Stupor or something like that. Sink into Stupor, not Otawara. Can a Lord help? Well played, opponent. Well played. Okay, Spreading Seas. Don't really have an option here. Damn. 1 damage off. We top deck a Lord. That was good too. Oh, they have a counterspell? Oh, the Force Negation. That's right. Okay, we're going to lose. So I'll just concede. Okay, cards that are good here. What's the white for? I don't get it. I don't get it, chat. What is the white for? So they have Abhorrent Oculus. This doesn't hit that. Probably don't want Hexcatcher still. Tidebinder is probably fine. Harbinger of the Seas is probably not that good. Spreading Seas was actually surprisingly useful just to hit the black. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of black spells. But why so much white? 2 Hallowed Fountains. Or maybe they just randomly drew all their white sources. Just by coincidence. Okay, so I think we should just apply... Whoops. We'll keep... or actually, maybe we're going to remove all these things. Okay, well, let's say this is just a regular Murktide deck. We want Tishana's Tidebinder, at the very least, to deal with, like, Tamiyo, Horn Oculus's... It's not the greatest versus Oculus, because our opponent is going to still have a 5/5 in play. That's pretty big. Okay, we should technically take out the Spreading Seas. Oh, but we were bringing in Stern Scolding before. This looks stone cold useless. Current target spell with power toughness 2 or less. And I don't know for sure that they have Snapcaster Mage in their deck. Are people playing with Snapcaster? Is Snapcaster Mage back by any chance? Oh, there's Picklock Prankster, Psychic Frog. Psychic Frog's not bad to hit. But honestly, doesn't really justify the Stern Scolding very well. Well, if they don't have if they don't have Bowmasters, Hexcatcher is not going to be the worst thing. It's not. I'm not in love with it though. And maybe we'll have 1 Force of Negation. Again, also not really in love with it. Maybe I can have 1 Stern Scolding for 1 Psychic Frog that shows up. This hand sort of sucks. I'll keep it though. Curve is just bad, that's all. I neglected to play the Sinkent Stupor on turn 1 because it might be just too important to hit an Oculus, a Murktide, anything. It's just too interactive. So what's going to happen in this game for the meantime is I'm going to be playing Floodpits Drowners, and my opponent is going to kill them. Either countering them or killing them with like fatal pushes. Or maybe I could play Hexcatcher here. Why not? If you counter this, okay, whatever. These are the tempo cards. They considered. So they're not going to crack this fetch land unless they just don't really like the card that they just drew. I'd love to bolt myself just to put the fear in my opponent, but I'm not going to do that. Life total does matter in this matchup. And it does... What the hell? Oh, they did consider something into the graveyard. Oh, they considered the counterspell. I thought they considered nothing. Because if I played the Springs and shocked myself, My opponent would probably think a million times through before they like fetch with the Marsh Flats there. Probably should have cracked the Marsh Flats. It's a bit reckless to well, they put their basic swamp in the graveyard. Sort of what that tells me is that they are sort of mana flooded. That is an asset in this matchup. Sometimes. I'm sure they've lost a Harbinger of the Seas a good chunk of times. A non-zero number of times. There's Psychic Frog. And there's Floodpits Drowner. And like I said, I've absolutely loved this card for Modern. I think this card is amazing for Modern. But the problem was that the main problem for Floodpits Drowners is 1 toughness. We'll counter this turn Scolding with Hexcatcher. Or do I? So next turn I could play Lord of Atlantis. Could just let it resolve and then we just try to go for another Floodpits Drowner the following turn. Because if I have a Lord and Hexcatcher, that seems like a pretty good combo. Sure, because I only get 1 more point of damage if Floodpits Drowner is on the battlefield. I'll just let that resolve. Okay, whatever. We're not going to complain about it. All that's important is that the Cavern of Souls has arrived now. Yeah, I'm overreacting because, like, if we had this earlier, our Flood Pits would be on the battlefield. At the moment, it is not. It is not on that battlefield. Let's see what our opponent's up to. The graveyard is full. They can easily play a Oculus or something. How does the Oculus work? I can't remember if it's 8 mana value or just 8 cards. Exile. Oh, sorry, 6 cards. Exile 6 cards from your graveyard. I should be more in touch with how the hell these cards work in Modern right now. We'll drown right now. The only way that we get super punished here is if our opponent plays land and then what's it called? They go land and Toxic Deluge, which would be like a 3 for 2, but they also lose. I can sack 2 creatures anyway, but so it's actually going to be a 2 for 1. But I still don't really want to sack my creatures. But they're still going to pay. I suppose they pay 2 life. They go to 10, and we still have a pretty decent chunk of cards in our hand between Sink It to Stupor and Floodpits Drowner. Like we can attack for 5 next turn. They go down to 5 and still have Floodpits for like whatever the hell they play. Putting an Oculus in the graveyard, probably because of Unearth. They unearth that, that's okay. I have borderline lethal on the battlefield. Oculus resolve, or sorry, you have an abhorrent Oculus. This is going to be a Murktide. Okay. We're racing. A race we're definitely going to win, though. Opponent manifests Dread. What's underneath there, opponent? What's underneath there? What do you got going on over there? So unfortunately, our mana is in a way It's a bit awkward. It's a little bit awkward. I can't play Flood Pits and Sink into Stupor at the same time. That's okay. So what am I attacking for? 8, 10? It's a lot of damage. You know, that's a lot of damage anyway. Now Toxic Deluge is completely off the table. And I will interact with our opponent with Flood Pit's Drowner because Sink into Stupor can get countered either through Force of Negation, Flare of Denial on our turn, and also just a multitude more counter spells on their turn. Just seems safe to Flood Pit's Drowner. They're going to consider, but I mean, the game's in the bag. I do not know how our opponent could get out of this. I guess Toxic Deluge with Subtlety? No, that doesn't even work because my Hexcatcher can counter the Toxic Deluge at that. Oh, Toxic Deluge is off the line. It had 2 life. Why do I keep thinking about that? Some other sweeper. And the other sweepers lose to Hexcatcher anyway. Everything loses to Hexcatcher. Okay, that game worked out great. That game worked out great. I say we run it back. I still have this Harbinger of the Seas. Harbingers might be really good. But they have 1 swamp? I don't want too many Harbinger of the Seas, but it didn't look so bad. Well, actually, no, it is bad. Like, half the reason that we won that game probably was because of our Cavernous Souls. This hand looks really good. We will keep. They kept 7 cards, too, so we're off to the races. We got this Gloom Lake Verge. We haven't used this with Dismember yet. It hasn't saved us any life. Which it... Oh, well... Ugh, I don't really like having 2 Ether Vials here. There's no point to it. Yeah, I'm not even going to play that vial. Okay, so they kept a card on top with their Undercity Sewers. And mind you, it's in their best interest to fill their graveyard for the Oculus, for the Murktide. So this deck, above everything, above and beyond, shows that keeping a card on top is an even stronger sign of strength. They put the Pluto Delta in their graveyard. If they had a tough decision about that, then I'm guessing they probably have like another land in hand, and they're just trying to wonder, do I want the 3rd one? Is the 3rd land necessary? I might play this Harbinger of the Seas, given how this game is going. I might play this Harbinger of the Seas. If they have no basic out, why not? They dumped a counterspell. Good decision. That's a wise idea. Very good idea. For a deck that's almost all monocolor, destroy all non-land permanents with mana value 1 or less. So I can't even put my damn Mind Spring Merfolk into play. Damn Pest Control. Okay, it's gone. But I have another one. Is this just gonna die? Yeah, okay, it dies. If you die, you die. Yeah, slamming this card. Screws me over a little bit, of course, because Cavernous Souls is shut down. I'm hoping it screws them over more. They have to get a 6th card in the graveyard for Oculus. Free the Fae will definitely do that. Spell Snare Unearth. Doesn't this only... Oh, we have to get an instant? Okay, so they could get... There's no creature in the graveyard. They did get the Unearth anyway. Another Tide Shaper. Am I just dumping my hand? I think I'm more or less dumping the hand. But I will get the Aether Vial in play. So future creatures will get through. Okay, let's start with Aether Vial. Then we'll play Tide Shaper first. If this hits us Stern, I think I'd rather have the Mind Spring in play if this is going to run into a Stern Scolding. Because this can technically buff up the board and also draw us extra cards. Yeah. And then we'll get Mind Spring in play, and then this other Tide Shaper will get in play through the Aether Vial. Remember, this can be done at instant speed. So I could just pass, essentially. Okay, if this is Oculus, this is not the end of the world, because we can Tishana's Tidebinder the Oculus on our turn, because that's when it triggers, which is good. No! Oh, they might Stern Scolding it now. Well, I have no choice. Okay, good. Got countered anyway. But we do need to now find a Lord. That's a great draw. Well, we can't do anything this turn, so we're just going to pass. We don't have Island Walk. We don't fly. There's a lot of things we don't do here. Oh, they're going to cycle that. Oh, that's a good idea, getting that unearthed so you can cycle it later. Sure. 2 considers hit the graveyard. You're going to attack? That's insane. That's crazy. Like, you're preventing me from attacking. Like, you're not even winning on board. You have less life. Oh, you're canning on the... Like, still, though. I think that plan is crazy. Who's the beatdown? I'm the beatdown. I'm supremely the beatdown. Oh, I can play another Mind Spring, too. Damn. I was thinking I should Mind Spring at my upkeep to see if I should tick the Vial up or stay on 1, but it seems so niche. Like, if I draw a land, I would want to Mind Spring for more. Anyway, so we're going to Mind Spring for 1. Sorry, we're Mind Springing for 0. Actually, we shouldn't do that. How do I want to do this? Okay, I have to put the Mind Spring in play. Then attack with most of my stuff. Now Mind Spring. It's 0, but it buffs everything up. Kills the stupid Picklock Prankster. This is working out! Man, a metagame without Bowmasters. We gotta soak it up while we can here. We have to soak it up while we can, because this isn't gonna last forever. Or maybe it will, I don't know. If anyone knows how Bowmasters somehow got pushed out of the format, even when there are still a bunch of 1 toughness creatures in the game, oh, you gotta let me know. But maybe it's decks like this. No 1 toughness creatures, and they just don't care. But they have a lot of card draw. Anyway, I don't get it. So we are 4-0. And it mattered. This card, I think it still mattered. I mean, definitely this Harbinger Seas might have contributed the most, but I like the mana efficiency of Mind Spring while also giving us the utility of like a pseudo Lord for 1 mana. Definitely very valuable. Okay, that was round 4. Let's move on to round 5. Here for round 5, we won the die roll. I won a lot of die rolls this league, maybe all of them. But the hand has no land. Has no land, right? A lot of 1-drops. Mulligan. Hand has lands. Enough lands that I'm definitely going to keep. I guess I'm going to dump a Mutavault, because if Harbinger of the Seas... Like, it's an awkward hand. I don't want to dump the Vial because I need a second blue source for Harbinger of the Seas. Mutavaults are still something, but not if Harbinger of the Seas enters the battlefield. If I dump I could dump the Force of Negation, but then my hand is a bit awkward. Yeah, I think I'm going to dump a Mutavault. And the plan will be just play Harbinger of the Seas, draw a random third land, and hard cast Force Negation if necessary. Teleria West, probably a Titan deck, which is good for us. Harbinger of the Seas just wins on the spot. And we do get our third mana source. Explore. You can play an additional land. Sure. I think it's just going to be important to play Flood Pits Drowner and get some clock on the battlefield. Oh, even better. Even better. Unfortunately, our opponent might be holding... I don't know how many Dismembers they play in the main deck. Maybe none. Drew another Flood Pits Drowner. So they are not eminently attacking me. I'm just going to quickly look. How many... Just looking to see how many Dismembers are played in the main, if any. It would appear none. At least the standard deck lists. So I think I'm free to play this Harbinger of the Seas and just win with it. Otherwise, I could take another turn. Just pass, and then Vial in Harbinger of the Seas and have Force Negation up as backup. Okay, they didn't even flow mana. And they just decided to scoop it. They scoop! Okay, what did we decide on? Harbinger of the Seas, Tishana's Tidebinder. Hexcatcher's okay. What do we not want? We don't want Spreading Seas. Not one Mindspring Merfolk. Was there something else I didn't like in this matchup? Did I bring in the Hexcatchers? They're like yeah, I think I said I brought in the Hexcatcher because of the new card, what's called the new tutor, Green Sun Zenith. The card that they said they couldn't unban because it would break Amulet Titan, and then you have people like Canister saying that it's garbage. And you know what? I believe him. I believe him. How else do I want to change this deck? Do I remove a Dismember? Maybe one... What do I remove? How did I sideboard the first time? This is not the same. I know I took out... Or did I take out all the Mindspring Merfolk? Maybe I took out all of them. Is Dismember any good anymore? Still hits Dryad. Yeah, it still hits Dryad, and they're going to... They only have one copy in their deck, but they have a million tutors for it. Dryad is too powerful. Too dangerous to stay alive! Yeah, I can't remember how we sideboarded the first game. Maybe we didn't have Hexcatcher. We're going to keep it this time. I mean, this is not very good hand. Our opponent mulliganed. Okay, I'll keep. Need some help, though. We can force pitch sink. We have Dismember for... maybe this is just a mulligan. Like, Dismember only hits Dryad reliably. The Tide Shipper can hit an Urza Saga, which is not even guaranteed to be in their deck. What the hell? Interesting. Seal of Removal. Return target creature to its owner's hand. So if I draw our trusty Harbinger of the Seas, this is a way of beating that. Even, it's an additional way, I guess. Okay, whatever. You can have a Seal of Removal. I'm not countering that damn thing. Flood Pit Drowner. Flood Pit Drowner. They don't have islands in their deck, so maybe I should hold on to the Tide Shaper anyway. Oh, but they can always bounce it. Okay, whatever. I'm still gonna keep it in my hand. I think having a 1/1 in play is not very useful. Okay, because if I play Tide Shaper as a 1/1, my opponent could just ignore it. And at the very least, if I play Tide Shaper as a 2/2, then I can maybe threaten them to play the Seal of Removal. So Green Sun Zenith for 1, I think can only get a Boreal Grazer, which is not that dangerous. Or a Dryad Arbor. Sure, anyway. This is not worth force negating. Yet. And if it is a Boreal Grazer, I mean, like... It's not like they still have the land in their hand. And so I'm probably going to Tide Shaper this Gruul Turf. And that might threaten our opponent to pop the seal. At least put pressure on them to do that. Another Seal of Removal. Okay. I'm not countering these things. And I gave them the blue mana for it too. Joke's on me. Well, I'm not going to play Aether Vial because I have too many 3-drops in my hand. So let's play this on Merfolk. We'll attack for 2. We'll just pass. Okay, well, attack didn't work. Still pass. I might dismember this Arboreal Grazer. Well, they don't have many cards in hand, though. I'm not going to dismember it now because I do have the Flood Pits Drowner. Of course, dismember is just much more useful on something else. Oh no, they're going to bounce their Gruul Turf back to hand. Yeah, that happens. If they have Primeval Titan in their hand, that's... Oh, they didn't even bounce the Gruul Turf back to hand. What's up with that? They brought back... Oh, the mana producing thing? So next time they have 4... They have 4, 5, 6 mana next turn? I sort of don't want to play this Flood Pits Drowner all of a sudden. Because maybe I need to use it for a Primeval Titan. But I actually don't know if that's what they're threatening. They might be threatening to play Green Sun Zenith. Which in that case I can sort of ignore all this crap. Drawing these Aether Vials are not very good for me. That's not good news. Oh, also they could Seal of Removal one of the creature. Like Seal of Removal my Tide Shaper. Okay, so we will play the Otawara. This is not something I want to do. Play Aether Vial. Okay, that happens. But it's gonna come back, opponent. It's gonna come back. Don't you know it's gonna come back? Okay, there's Primeval Titan. We'll sink. Get sunk. These are not particularly useful cards for me at the moment. Not particularly useful. Please do something other than Seal of Removal and then play Primeval Titan. Play a non-creature spell. Just for one turn, please. Just one turn, that's all. They went for it anyway, damn it. This is sort of a clever response to Harbinger of the Seas. So now they can, okay, they have Tolaria West, so they can go find a Pact of Negation, sorry, a Summoner's Pact. So our option now, we're just going to we're going to go crazy. I don't even know what I want to draw here. Maybe a land? It's an interesting card to draw. As our only way of winning here is we're going to... we have to attack. Well, okay, my plan is attack with everything. They block with Primeval Titan. We dismember the Primeval Titan. But if we do that, then we can't cast Force Negation on their Summoner's Pact on a following turn. And by the way, I will wait until damage, because they could Seal of Removal bounce the creature that we just attacked with. Problem is, if I don't attack with Mutavault, what does that look like to my opponent? But we need to counter. We need to counter that Pact of Negation. We don't have a choice, so I can't tap out here. But this doesn't look like I'm going wide, is the problem. If I activate the Mutavault, I think this is my only line, though. Okay, I wonder if this does not look so fishy. If I play the Lord. It just sort of looks like I want to kill this Grazer. Okay. That was good enough to kill a Primeval Titan. Can you kill a god? I say yes, we can. They can bounce it back to their hand with the Seal of Removal. Didn't even think about that. But then maybe you don't play it again, opponent. Wow, they let it die. Unbelievable. What is going on in this game, chat? What is going on in this game? Okay, depending on what's in their hand, though, I could be in a lot of trouble. They have at least a Summoner's Pact, which I have to counter. Yeah, I don't have a choice. And now I just have to hope that they have nothing else. Three extra cards left in hand. But they could have bounced it, right? Return target. It's return target creature to its owner's hand. They could have saved their Primeval Titan. But I guess they were too afraid of the or maybe they just have another Primeval Titan. Okay, I forgot. They played a Summoner's Pact. We countered it. That means that was the second Summoner's Pact. Oh, I see what's going on here. Yeah. Okay, I didn't even realize that they effectively had, because we knew about the Tolaria West, which was supposed to get a Summoner's Pact. But what we didn't know, or at least I forgot, that there was the Summoner's Pact that they played was basically an extra Summoner's Pact. Do they have an island in play? They do not. Ooh, Primeval Titan gains haste. Gonna do some more damage to me. And there's a Primeval Titan in the graveyard which activates the Shifting Woodland. Out of all the things that they're playing, I'm surprised they're not getting, like, more forests. So I'll take 6. I'm going to take the Vial up to 3, so that if we draw Harbinger of the Seas, I can hard cast it and then Vial it back into play in response to a Seal of Removal. I don't know if it's going to interact enough, but that's the plan. Get a Hex Catcher. Is that going to be enough? Probably not. Attack for 4, 8, 11. It's not enough damage. What does this do again? Oh, it's only in there for the haste. This can copy another Primeval Titan, so it looks like I'm pretty screwed. So you might be asking, why didn't I play Vidillion Hexcatcher there? Well, the answer to that is if I tap out to play Hexcatcher, like I don't win the game there, and then my opponent will just activate the Shifting Woodland and just attack me and kill me. So that's why I didn't do it. Because my opponent would have perfect information. But if I have one unknown card in my hand, maybe it's Sink into Stupor, maybe it's Tishana's Tidebinder. Tishana's Tidebinder wouldn't be not so bad right now. It'd actually be really good. So I could deal with one of these stupid dorks. It'd actually be really good. I'd counter something, try to block it, and then if they want to bounce my thing back to hand, it wouldn't even work. Okay, anyway, I can't block all the... can I block enough stuff? Play Hexcatcher. I have 6. I can block... 1 Primeval Titan. Maybe not. Let the second one resolve. Maybe I should just not have attacked. I can try to block 1 Primeval Titan, but it looks like they will just bounce it with Seal of Removal. They just need to bounce 1 with Seal of Removal and I die to the tramples. Yeah. And that'll be 10 damage. Alright, let's hope things are better this game. Seal of Removal, huh? This only hits triggered abilities, not activated abilities. Can I do anything about Seal of Removal? Seal of Removal. Not really. I'm on the play. I'm going to have like a Mind Spring on the play. Like there's technically only one Dryad, and all the counters get countered by this. So I don't even know why I would let my opponent resolve. Okay, well, the thing is, if they have Summoner's Pact, it actually might be in my benefit. If they play Summoner's Pact, put a Dryad in play, I kill it, and then they soak up a turn, paying for Pact next turn. Okay, is this somehow better than, say, Dismember? I don't think so. There's just not enough triggered abilities. I can counter Amulet. That's too narrow. Hand looks great. Turn 1, force a negation on Seal of Removal. And we have 2 Harbinger of the Seas. If you deal with one of them, you gotta still deal with the other one. Seal of Removal. Great tech. Really cool. Oh, you still get a mana this turn. Yes, the turn to Aether Vial. Well, I am not guaranteed. What do I want to do here? I have more 3-drops than 2-drops. Well, Okay, I'll play Ether Vial. I can save the force on like a Flood Pit Drowner or something. This game's not really going to be decided by a fast clock. I have Harbinger of the Seas. If I just play this Harbinger of the Seas, that should be good enough. My opponent says, right on time. I know. I love it on turn 2. Well, they're holding up a ton of mana. We're just gonna pass. We didn't get our 3rd land, but you know, another thing about playing the Ether Vial on turn 2 is, I mean, there's a chance that we need to get this. The Ether Vial will tick up to 3, and it'll be important. Holy crap! Am I happy to see that? That's fine with me. Give me my islands. Just ramping me. Opponent is just ramping. Now I'm starting to wonder how many Seal of Removals are there in our opponent's hand. How many Seal of Removals are there? I think I want the Hexcatcher in play, to be honest. Because this can counter the tutors. Another Ether Vial. How lovely. Okay, we'll attack for 1, a silly 1. And also with the Hexcatcher in play, I can play Harbinger of the Seas will attack for 3. Something I'm not really prepared for, though, is if there's a second forest in their hand. Okay, Explore can resolve. Uh-oh. Lotus Field. If you have Dismember in hand, you probably wait until my turn. But I don't know if I can... No, I can actually... Yeah, I can play this. Okay, I can play from here. Yeah, we'll just attack with these things. If they have Dismember, we force negate it. And then if there is... And then, like, even if they don't play Dismember this turn, I can at least play Flood Pit Drowner on their turn. And have Force Negation up. And we just might do this for the next few turns. Well, our opponent is running out of time here. I still have to hold up. Well, I don't have to hold up anything, to be honest. I was thinking about it if I want to play the Vial. The board should be winning as it is. This is 10 damage as it is on the board. And we get the 5-0! We got 5-0! On camera. Nice. Not bad. Oh, not too shabby. Not too shabby at all. Now, that being said, we ran well. We won a lot of die rolls. B, we also got a lot of good matchups. But C, the Mind Spring helped us. I think that was a pretty decent card to have in the deck. I would definitely explore with this card a lot more. Mind Spring Merfolk, at least in the metagame as it is right now, where there's like very few Bowmasters. We were up against a few decks that played black, but like they didn't play Bowmasters. That would have chewed us up big time. Which also, also we should give some credit to Flood Pit Drowner, which was useful in that Amulet matchup and useful in the other matchups, because these cards are great. Like, I think Flood Pit Drowner is an absolute banger of a card, given the fact that it has Flash and Vigilance, and also it's a pseudo removal spell, 1 toughness makes it unplayable, though. But if Bowmasters and Wrenn and 6 to a degree are just not present in the current metagame, I think that upgrades the Merfolk deck up by quite a bit. So I think it's worth exploring with Mindspring Merfolk. Most of the Merfolk in Merfolk on turn 1 are just a 1-mana 1/1. The fact that this can be like a pseudo lord at least on turn 4 plus, I think is great. I think that's fantastic. It's just that, like, all the 1 toughness creatures are fantastic. Mistcaller is fantastic. Silvergill Adept is fantastic. Floodpit Drowner is fantastic. Thieving Skydiver is fantastic. But the problem is the 1 toughness never makes it worth it. But if there's no predator to these cards, then we're free to play them. We're free to play. You know what? The chains are off. We're not so limited anymore. We'll play whatever the hell. Maybe Vendilion Clique can come back. Who knows? All right, you like that 5-0? You probably liked it before you even clicked on the video, because that's exactly what the title's going to be. You give the thumbs up to this video. And I don't know exactly what's the best thing to do to adjust this deck. We're really heavy on Seas effects in the main deck, but we're up against some blue decks, and it didn't even seem to matter. And even the Spreading Seas even helped us a few times. Lock down some black sources. All right, give the thumbs up. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Take care. And that's been Nikachu, Merfolk Master, playing with Mindspring Merfolk in Modern.